What's up, everybody? I'm John, and thank you for watching RGN today. July 15th, 1999. Today in Real Gamer history, Legend of Mana is released. Now, many of you may know Secret of Mana, the action RPG from Square Enix, which allowed for co-op play on the Super Nintendo. Legend of Mana continues. It was released for the PlayStation in Japan on July 15th, 1999, and in North America on June 7th, 2000, where it was a huge financial success. The game takes non-linear storylines to the limits. It's a brand new, unique idea at the time, and it's really taking the innovation and taking the leap of faith, as in taking a risk of the game not having a linear storyline as most RPGs have had up until that point. Rather, the characters are able to change the world around them using various artifacts. Depending on how you find the artifacts and where you decide to go using them, that's going to carve different ways of experiencing the same story. This is the main criticism of the game. However, if you're going back in fresh and knowing that, you may be able to enjoy it quite a bit. So check out Legend of Mana on the original PlayStation. And keep it staying tuned for us, where we're checking out every Real Gamer day in history by the time we're done.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out RGN Today number 8. There's been a lot of cool videos in between this one and number 7, and we've had to change our schedules a lot of times alongside the digital events that are replacing E3 this year. In order to deal with the lack of news caused by companies spreading things out over 3 months instead of 3 days this year, we have relaunched Real Gamer Podcast, and soon we will be relaunching Indie Spotlight series as well. Check out our channel update video for more information on what to expect from us moving forward, and I'm excited to tell you that we'll be announcing a second on-camera video series which is more opinions and research passion focused rather than news based, so we can continue making great videos. As always, let us know if you have any ideas in the comments below, and we'll shout you out in the next video, as well as give you our thoughts on the idea. And now, back to your regular broadcast.
And we're just 5 days away from the big Xbox event. How big? Well, we're not exactly sure yet. Everything to expect. Halo Infinite, definitely going to be there. My personal feelings and expectations, don't get your hopes too high, because I bet you that Microsoft has an August event planned out. And if Sony and Xbox are going to keep coming at each other every month, there might even be, some emergency plans for September or whatever. We know there's going to be Gamescom coming up, and that there's also going to be the Tokyo Games Show. So PlayStation 5 should have a lot of stuff to be shown. So therefore, I don't think Xbox is going to do this big, huge event that everyone keeps expecting, that they're going to roll out everything they've got. I kind of hope they do. I would like to see that, but I don't think it's coming. Probably not going to get the price of the console, because Sony and Microsoft are in a big game of chicken over that. However, there was a pretty nice miniature event hosted on the Unreal Engine's Twitch page, and it was called Inside Unreal, hosted by the Coalition, who made Gears 5. And in that event, we were shown a whole bunch of stuff, including following Epic Games showcasing the features of Unreal 5 engine, which were made to take advantage specifically of Xbox Series X and its brand new superior power and performance. And the Coalition showed off an enhanced version of Gears 5 running on Xbox Series X, while also revisiting some of its tech, like facial animation systems, dynamic character rigs, lighting and cover system, etc. And they even shown how they're going to be able to use the editing in real time on the console. So that was pretty cool. You get to see in a way that you have never really seen before. And they even rolled back the curtain and show some of the tricks that they use to get the different shadowing and lighting systems to work on the Xbox One back when they're using the Jaguar CPU. Coming up on the next gen should be pretty amazing though, so that might not be necessary. PlayStation 5 has shown in their newest advertisements that they too will be hosting 8K content on the PlayStation 5 device. It has an 8K output. It also can do 4K up to 120 frames per second. So you know what that means. It's brand new HDMI cables. Everyone who's capturing footage out there, people like me, you're gonna be getting a brand new capture card whenever they drop that thing. A lot of games are probably not going to make it to the full 4K 120 frames at first. Developers seem to be cramming in as much visual effects as they can. So like on PC, for example, we have something called ultra settings. And on console, it's always been more like comparable to a PC's medium settings. So even if you were playing on 4K, the PC is having ultra settings, giving you much more detail to the textures, detail to the lightings, detail to the shadows, anti-aliasing, which is the removal of jagged edges caused by polygon drawing, and stuff like that. So at first, that's what they're gonna do. They're just gonna load in the ray tracing, load in the better graphics, get everything cranked as much as they can in terms of detail, probably be doing a lot of 30 frame per second games. And then after that, they're gonna have to figure out, okay, how do I optimize this down now? How do I make this run as quickly as possible? However, I am happy to see the new HDMI standard being embraced, and I am also happy to see the potential for 120 frames per second 4K gameplay. I'm not exactly holding my breath, let's just hope that most of them are 60, right? Okay, so one important thing when it comes to PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X that everybody's talking about is throughput, I/O throughput. So one thing with the PlayStation 5 is that the custom SSD is marked at about 5 gigabit per second. Now, okay, I did mention before in a round 2 that the SSD NVMe already does 3 gigabit per second, and they're going to be going to 5, but there's also 7 coming to PC. So PlayStation 5 is sort of in the middle point between what's out right now on PC and what's coming next. What's coming next will be better than PS5's drives, and it's coming pretty soon. But that's really regardless, because Xbox Series X is the competition for PS5, not PC, right? However, Microsoft has announced the Velocity system, and the main thing is called sampler feedback. So now, one thing that's important to know is that Xbox always has been advertising the average speed for the Xbox Series X, not the maximum, and Sony's been advertising the maximum for PS5. So the average for PS5 is something around like 9.3 teraflops, 9.7 teraflops, that's the average. 10.2 is the maximum. The Xbox Series X average is 12 teraflops, that's compute power, okay? However, their drive is slower. But there's a catch here. Often, all the time, drives on a PlayStation are pulling so much data that they don't actually need. And this happens on Xbox One as well. So part of the velocity feature and the sampler feedback is that the Xbox Series X is actually going to be able to tell the drive exactly what it needs for data. So say instead of loading a town when you enter another town, if you just are going into one particular door, it can just load that one room. And if it knows that's what you're doing. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on right now in terms of scalable frequency, power supply scalable, and now this here where Microsoft is saying we don't need to take all the data, we'll take less data, that way that 4 gigabyte a second or 5 gigabyte a second is even more useful. So it's clear that next gen Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, they're not just computers. There is custom hardware, there's custom software, and there's a lot of thinking that's going into each system. I'm very excited to see what it's going to be like when they're both in our hands. Xbox is dropping tons of trailers right now. They're doing the Power Redefined campaign, so we'll explain that again. And Gears 5 has 50% higher particle counts on Xbox Series X against PC. So they're going to put a better version of Gears 5 for the Xbox Series X than they currently have for PC. I mean, of course, I hope that they'll patch that version on PC, but it just goes to show you the Xbox Series X is very, very powerful, okay? And 120 frames per second has been confirmed for multiplayer. I'm not sure if that means 4K with the graphics settings turned down, or if that means 1080p with the graphics settings all the way up and the 120 frames per second. Either one seems pretty good, it would be pretty cool, but I'm guessing it's 4K with some compromises made on settings or graphics in order to get that 120 frames. And I think that that's going to be really awesome for multiplayer. And I think that for these new consoles, you really probably should not go 1080p. Even though on PC, that's an easy way to hit 120 frames. If you have a really powerful PC and you're playing 30 to 60 frame rate, try bumping it down to 1080 just for certain games that you play online a lot, and you'll be getting that 120 frames pretty easily.
And now for the quick news. After leaking on PlayStation Store Hong Kong, Far Cry 6 was officially announced at the Ubisoft Forward event. You can check out our coverage of it over on RealGamerNewz at YouTube and RealGamerNewz.com. Anyways, Far Cry 6 takes place in a fictional island called Yara, and we now have the very first screenshots leaked for Far Cry 6, which is scheduled to release on February 18th, 2021. Far Cry 6 will be available for Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PC, PS4, PS5, and Stadia. In a strange twist, it seems that some folks have been confused with the 4K resolution only on Xbox One X, Xbox Series X section of the ad. Microsoft paid for the advertisements for the game, Far Cry 6, and mspoweruser.com is saying that Ubisoft Support claimed on Twitter that the console version on PlayStation 4 Pro and PlayStation 5 will not support 4K. However, I believe that this was actually an error made by the support worker. They must have just read the same banner and derived the same information from it. However, they're just meant to help people out who are having issues. Like, say if you had an Xbox One S and you're asking them that question, then that would be the answer that makes sense to give you. Xbox One X and Series X are the only ones that can do 4K in the Xbox Series family. And also, Xbox paid for the ads. I highly doubt that the game's not going to be 4K on PS4 Pro and PS5. Even if there's a significant difference between the game's versions, they would still stretch it up. Sony would ask them to checkerboard 4K it. So that's just crazy. There is a free next-gen upgrade for the Xbox version using Smart Delivery, and Ubisoft has promised the same for PlayStation 5 version since it's a transitional period, but will not be the same after this transitional period. There's also a rumor that Sony has increased PlayStation 5 production. Nikkei and Bloomberg have reported that Sony has increased its initial production of PlayStation 5. Sony had initially ordered around 5 to 6 million units to be ready by March 2021, but has now increased that to around 10 million units by the end of 2020. Sony also reportedly increased its production to order over 10 million DualSense controllers to match the new production outlook. Mass production of the PS5 began in June and is expected to produce around 5 million units by the end of September, with the other 5 million units landing in the end of December. According to recent rumors, Microsoft is considering purchasing a brand new gaming studio and could have their eyes on Warner Brothers. If this deal goes through, it will represent over $1 billion purchase price at minimum, and will involve Microsoft getting 12 new studios, mainly made famous by their deal on licensing projects such as Batman, Harry Potter, etc. The Harry Potter game, which was leaked a little while ago, actually looks really crazy. So we do hope that Microsoft is able to give the financial backing to WB, because they actually need it right now. Things are going down there and not in a good way. According to leaks in surveys and Capcom's comments, Capcom does not want us to call the game Resident Evil 8, but instead call it Resident Evil Village, despite how they made the VIII in Village show up as an 8. This is apparently meant to make it easier for new fans to get into the series, but hopefully does not take away from the fact that it is the 8th entry into the mainline franchise, with all the pressure and burden associated with that. This shouldn't be anything to get too alarmed about though, as Capcom has actually done a fantastic job with Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake, as well as Resident Evil 7. So personally, as a huge Resident Evil fan, I actually trust them with this, but I'm still going to call it Resident Evil 8 at times, and I'm not sure if I can bring myself to call it Resident Evil Village in press write-ups or ever, to be honest. And as Xbox continues dropping bombs on us, the CrossfireX Open Beta will be live with friends from June 25th to June 28th. You can sign up now, and the link for that is in the description. A leaked DualSense controller for the PlayStation 5 was shown online and is out in the wild right now. Geoff Keighley will be showing off the controller at the Summer Games Fest event. No coincidence there, I'm sure. And Microsoft Flight Simulator is now available for pre-order with a brand new trailer dropped. The very ambitious Flight Simulator is being called the first truly next-gen game, and it will feature every airport in the world, as well as tons of GPS data. So essentially, you're in the real globe, in real life. You can even fly over your own home. The Xbox One X and the Xbox One S All Digital Edition have also been discontinued, although the Xbox One S will continue to be manufactured. This is of course because the Xbox Series X will launch soon, so not sure how they're going to keep the X One S around if the Lockhart rumor was to be true, but we will have to wait a little longer before we find out. And last but certainly not least, Microsoft will launch xCloud as a free bonus for members who have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate in September. You'll be able to start streaming games, and they've confirmed Halo Infinite is one of the games that you'll be able to stream. And now it's time for RGN Analysis, where we break down one industry topic per day. Don't forget to check out our Discord! Link in the description! The Coalition held an event showing Gears 5 running on Xbox Series X and talking about the Unreal 5 tech made to take advantage of the new hardware Microsoft has put into the machine. Designers, tech directors, and art directors were present to speak about working with Unreal 5 to make games on the next-gen platform. As Inside Unreal event takes a closer look at Gears on Xbox Series X, the Round 3 debate of our PlayStation 5 versus Xbox Series X research commences. This time I've taken my own analysis out of the equation for this one, as experts provide their differing opinions on the next-gen hardware levels offered by each platform holder. We've also covered the recent news today in gaming history and upcoming titles that look to bring a truly next-gen experience to the table. So let's talk about it. Xbox versus PlayStation 5. Round 3. First off, with PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, both are going to be very impressive. Both will see ray tracing replace rasterization as the norm. Both can do 4K at 120 frames per second maximum, or 8K, not both at the same time. Variable refresh rate will be more important than the console's performance for those who have a TV that can support it. For those who do not, developers will hopefully provide a limited frame rate cap on games so they don't have a hard time syncing to the TV's refresh rate, which operates very differently from that of a high-end computer monitor where variable refresh rate operates. VRS is also going to be important next gen, in which the game tells the console what to render and only renders what is on screen at the moment. This is the first time in gaming history that hardware is fast enough to pull off this illusion without jarring load stutters or glitchy pop-in. Dynamic latency input, or DLI, will lower latency and immediately sync up inputs with newer televisions. Both consoles are set to change gaming forever by making high-speed SSD the main drive for games. Entire game engines are being built around this to allow for extremely high quality graphics to be shown at rapid speed, all while providing a much larger world than ever with a larger, busier population and almost no load times at all, with nearly instant fast travel. What a mouthful. Now for the contrasting. PlayStation 5 has 32 compute units, which operate at 2.23 GHz, 10.28 teraflops, whereas Xbox Series X has 20 more compute units than that, 52 compute units, operating at 1.82 GHz, at 12 teraflops of compute power. Now, take it from me hands down. More compute units that operate at a lower speed is better, because it means that the device can do more things at once. Okay, obviously you want the maximum speed, but the difference between 1.8 to 2.2 gigahertz is not significant compared to the difference between 32 compute units and 52 compute units. So Xbox Series X is absolutely a degree more powerful than PlayStation 4 in compute power, raw compute power. But even Xbox boss Phil Spencer admits raw compute power is not everything. That's what makes this so complicated. I just wanted to first off mention that the battle of a larger amount of processors operating with a little less speed versus a smaller amount of cores which operate at a higher speed is actually already taking place on PC between AMD and Intel, and AMD is winning that battle. AMD are also the ones who are making these consoles. Just some food for thought as we proceed. Now, what we wanted to do this time around is to get the experts to weigh in on things. So we checked in on Digital Foundry, we've watched all their videos, we've checked out everything that they're saying, and then we went to other YouTubers, other websites, Tom's Hardware, places like this. Linus Tech Tips has a very active message board community. They all talk about their opinions. So we just try to get the gist of what's going on right now What's the latest, and what do computer experts think about all this stuff? The PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X are both using 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. That's the newest memory that's available. It's in the 2080 Ti as well. PlayStation 5 is operating at 448 gigabytes a second, while Xbox Series X has 10 gigabytes preserved for the GPU at 560 gigabytes a second, which is significantly faster now, and that's for 10 gigs worth. All the graphics memory is faster, okay? Let that sink in for a minute. Everyone's saying, oh, because the average is 448 between the CPU and GPU. Microsoft provides 6 gigabytes at 336 gigabytes a second. Sony's is the average between those two numbers, 448. However, they're operating all of it at 448. So that means Xbox is essentially overclocking 10 gigs worth for graphics benefits. On the other side of things, I/O speeds, aka storage data speed, is where PlayStation 5 comes out on top. Xbox Series X has an NVMe 1TB SSD, and it's 2.4 gigabytes a second raw data speed and 4.8 gigabytes a second compressed data speed, similar to any SSD you would buy and stick into your computer today, the M.2 type. Meanwhile, PlayStation 5 has a very custom 825 gigabyte NVMe SSD with 12 channels, essentially eliminating the bandwidth problem between the CPU, the RAM, the graphics processing, and tons of co-processors, but we'll get to that in a minute. The speed of this is 5.5 gigabytes a second raw data speed and 8.5 gigabytes a second compressed. Now, Xbox has Velocity Engine, and it's going to be attempting to only pull the data that is needed, so that should really help out with things. But if this is true about the 12 channel, the 12 lane co-processors and everything in the PlayStation 5, it may actually come out with faster input speeds as advertised. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X both feature a ton of custom chips and extra thought put into them. In the PlayStation 5 article on RealGamerNewz.com, we covered in extreme detail the Road to PS5 event that took place with Mark Cerny. While most people were bored, I actually was not. So go to RealGamerNewz.com and check out our PlayStation 5 section if you want to see more on that one. So there you have it. Xbox versus PlayStation 5. Round 3. Final verdict? Unknown. Result? Who is the winner? It's not clear at this time. We don't know yet. So everybody just hang on a little longer. Once the systems get in our own hands and devs have had some time to work, we will begin to see experts like Digital Foundry measuring, comparing frame rates, identifying anti-aliasing, ray tracing, and other visual effects, and really determining the power difference that resulted from the two very different architecture types. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and be sure to go back to check out our previous rounds of discussion for this debate, including on RGN Today number 6, where we discussed the pros and cons of variable frequency while debating the choices of Xbox versus PlayStation 5 for central processing unit and power supply philosophies. Who do you think will win? What do you predict next gen? Let us know.
Alright everybody, what's up? Welcome to the community comments. It's been quite a while since RGN number 7, so we're going to bring it all in. Alright, so first off, we have Stacy, who commented on the Devolver Digital review we recently did. She said, I agree, it's terrible. Okay? It's not just us, you guys. DJ Killzone Jones says, congrats on the solo victory, and that Modern Warfare looks sick on PC. Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. We have some comments on the podcast that we did where we're talking about games being $69 each for PS5. Absolute MMA says, don't even act like Microsoft won't do this, because they will. Of course. We never intended to say that it would only be PlayStation 5. It's just that the news broke with PlayStation 5 and that you can't fit so many things in the title. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So Arsenic Steel, if you're looking for a budget system, try out the imaginary Xbox One S or Xbox Series S. Sorry. That's what Arsenic Steel says. And he's got a PS5 controller for a logo. So I think I get what you're saying. He doesn't believe the Xbox One S is real. And if it is real, he doesn't believe it's $199. And if it's more than $250, it's useless. So I get what you're coming from. I understand the skepticism. It is kind of an outlandish claim. We do consider if we're going to report on rumors or not. We're actually starting a new show called Rumor Roundup. And maybe we'll throw all the rumors mostly in there. But we'll see. But I understand the frustration and the skepticism there. We've had rumors like this before, but we did decide to report this rumor because a ton of people are reporting on it, and there seems to be some sources. Rumor is, another rumor for you, August you should hear about Xbox One S. So if you don't hear nothing, it ain't real or it was canceled. DJ Killzone Jones says, what did Dr. Disrespect do now? Dr. Disrespect, sorry. And my reply here, it looks like no one knows for sure what happened with him, but it could be related to Spotify video. I agree it might be big. Let's see. Could be an exciting next-gen console wars. Circle of Black Love 2.0 podcast says, I'm not going to waste my money. I'm getting digital and going both. Disc version and digital for PS5. I refuse to give Xbox money, so that's not even an option, no matter how many cool pocket consoles they make. Geoff says, Yakuza was shown for Series X, but not PS5. At least I didn't see Sony show it. I didn't see a single Sega game shown for the PS5. That's a good point. He's talking on RGN Today, number 5, where we talked about Famitsu hinting at the Sega/Xbox merger. That did not seem to happen. Okay, so a lot of rumors came up, and like I said, you know, we try to be careful not to report on everything, but Famitsu, that's your bad. They misled the whole world thinking that something big's gonna happen, and it turned out to be Fog Gaming, which I think is awesome, but not quite the response we were looking for, and the Game Gear Micro, which again, I do think that's awesome, but it's definitely not what we were looking for. Sega, get something going, make something happen. You don't need Microsoft to buy you to do something cool. Just do something cool. Stop being boring. All right, everybody. Thanks for the comments. Drop a comment below on this show, your opinion about anything, or any ideas that you have about future shows, or any criticism you have for improving. We will read your comment out loud, give you a free shout out, and let you know what we think about our idea. Thanks. Until next time, keep it real, keep it gaming. Peace.
And now for the good news, where we give you today's positive side of gaming. What's up, everybody? For today's good news, it's actually going to deviate a little bit away from gaming for once. There was a trial held by Dr. Lisa A. Jackson from Kaiser Permanente Washington Health Research Institute in Seattle, where the first ever candidate vaccine began testing on March 16th. Candidates, 45 of which, ages 18 to 55, enrolled in the study. And what was experienced were minor fatigue, headaches, chill, and pains during the first and second injections. Over the course of the process, the clinical trials of the Phase 1 led to an end of all symptoms and eradication of the virus. Conclusion is, the vaccine is well effective and well tolerated for its 45 adult participants. We can look forward to that on the way, with the brand new factories created by Bill Gates in the United States, where the government has already ruled that citizens should receive the vaccine for free, paid for by governments around the world, as international law. Stay safe out there, everybody, and keep it real, keep it gaming.
What's up, it's John again. Thanks for supporting RealGamerNewz by checking out this video. If you liked the video, hit the like button. If not, hit the dislike and explain why in the comments. Subscribe if you're new here, hit the ring bell for notifications, and I'll catch you next time. Until then, keep it real and keep it gaming. Peace.
Thanks for checking out today's video. Like and subscribe and ring the bell notification so you don't miss out on future videos. Peace.